All right, I know that you guys have been just dying, just waiting to find out on the edge of your seat, sitting on pins and needles. You can't wait to find out who it is that is going to be the heir to the English throne. Um, so here it is. It's this guy right here, James the First. Okay, fancy looking guy. He ruled England from 1603 until 1625. He was placed in an interesting position because he was already the King of Scotland. So now, because he was the closest relative to Elizabeth I, and she died with no heir, James I also becomes the King of England. You already know that Elizabeth was the last of the Tudor dynasty to rule, so that means that James is from another dynasty. He's the first of the Stuarts to rule. Stuarts. Stuarts. He's the first. He's also a Protestant, but he is a Calvinist and not Anglican like Elizabeth and her father Henry VIII had been. James I, he really struggles and was not as successful as of a ruler as far as running the country goes when you compare him to Elizabeth. He wanted to be an absolute ruler of England, but he tried to force Parliament to do as he wished by playing the divine right to rule card, and Parliament was having none of that. So he really had a difficult time maintaining a positive working relationship with Parliament. Plus, he's coming to rule after Elizabeth I, who had managed to work very well with Parliament. So now um, he was not a total unsuccess. Okay, so he did accomplish some pretty significant things while he ruled England. Have you ever heard of the King James version of the Bible? Okay, this is what it looked like at the time. So the King James version is named after King James I. This is basically the New English translation of the scriptures at this point in time. Another success that he had was the establishment of a colony right here in Virginia. Anyone want to take a guess where it might be? You probably went on a field trip there in, I don't know, fourth grade maybe. I hope you said Jamestown because that's where he was. That's where he established the colony. So if we're looking at the map, Jamestown is right up here. Virginia Beach is right down here. Okay, so not that far from here is where the colony of Jamestown was settled. So those are his two major successes, the King James Version of the Bible and the establishment of Jamestown. He ended up dying from natural causes in 1625, and then his son, whose name was Charles I, took over. Okay, here he is. Um, so Charles I, not really a popular guy with the English folks either. And with him, it all came down to money. So here's the problem. He wanted money, but Parliament didn't want to give it to him. So how does this get fixed? Well, he decides that the best thing to do is to put the head of Parliament in prison because, of course, he doesn't agree with him. So if he puts him in prison, then it's not that big of a deal. Then he can get his way. Well, this certainly doesn't go over well with the rest of Parliament. So remember, to be a successful ruler in England, he's got to have a good working relationship with Parliament. Well, the rest of Parliament, who already didn't like him, they turn against him even more. So remember that Parliament is a representative body of the people of England. Okay, it's Parliament is to England what Congress is to the United States. Does that make sense? Um, so Charles I just doesn't stop with imprisoning members of Parliament just because he didn't get his way. He decided to do a few more things that were going to upset the people as well. He forced the citizens of England to house and feed English soldiers. He placed England under martial law, which means that the military was in control. And remember how he was all wanting more money, like that was his thing? When Parliament didn't give it to him, he decided that he would just sell off some of the crown jewels. Yes, the crown jewels, like jewels from the crown, the king and queen of England. He decided he's going to sell them. So that is just the breaking point for Parliament. So what they do is they write the Petition of Right. Okay, and that's what it looks like. It's very hard to read, but that's the Petition of Right, the actual copy of it. And what this does is it takes power away from the king. Okay, so here's what he can't do anymore. He can't tax without Parliament's permission. He can't declare martial law. He can't force English citizens to give room and board to soldiers during times of peace. And he also can't just throw people in prison without charges. So that's what he can't do. And it's made very clear to him what he can and cannot do. So guess what he does? He signs it. This guy right here signs the Petition of Right, okay? Now, it sounds like this is a good deal, right? But guess what? Yeah, he signed it. It's a legal and binding contract with Parliament and all that stuff. But he ends up charging taxes anyway. And so Parliament protests and is extremely upset. So Charles says, fine, Parliament, go home. He dismisses them, sends them home, and he does not call them back into session for 11 years. Okay, 11 years that they basically don't have their governing body, um, their parliament there working for them, the English people. So can you imagine what the United States would be like if our Congress did not had been sent home by the president and then didn't come back for 11 years? It'd be crazy. So when he did finally call Parliament back, um, they're already pretty fired up from all of their past history with this guy. But to make matters worse, Charles the First, he just keeps on doing the same old same thing. He just keeps doing things that upset Parliament, which led to the Civil War, and that's where we're going to pick up in video 3.